everyone, my name is Kelsie. This video will be breaking down the chaturungadandasana. I'll show you how to modify and make it easier and harder. And for this class, you'll just grab 2 blocks or anything of this size and shape. Textbooks work really well, maybe some pillow cushions. So grab 2 of those and we'll get started. So to start as a warm-up, we're going to head onto our backs and grab those 2 blocks or textbooks, whatever you have with you. You'll start in a constructive rest, knees point up towards the sky, feet hip bone distance apart, flat down on the ground. I'm going to put my blocks into my hands, so one block is on one hand, and I'm going to bend my elbows at 90 degrees. So my wrists are stacked over my elbows. My elbows are into the earth right next to my rib cage. The palms are holding the blocks or the books upwards towards the sky. As we breathe in, we're going to press our arms, straighten them as we press the blocks up. So the end goal is to have those wrists stacked over the shoulders. As we exhale, bend the elbows back to 90 degrees, squeeze them into the rib cage like you're trying to close the gates. Inhale, straighten the arms, and exhale, we're going to bend. So you can play around here with lifting and lowering the arms. If you were to turn your body upside down, you can imagine that this is the shape that you would make in chaturanga with our knees bent. So feel free to play around now if you want to kind of keep the bend in the knees but straighten them out a little more. Or if your core still feels nice and intact, as you straighten the legs and flex the feet, you can do this full plank variation. So you always have options once we turn our body upside down, what you want, to have the knees bent or the knees up. If you're just starting out, I highly recommend to keep the knees bent and just focusing more on the straightening and bending of the arms. So we'll do one more. Really use the exhale to squeeze the core, bend the elbows. You can remove the blocks, the books off to the side when you're ready. And then we'll come onto our hands and our knees. So chaturanga is a lot of weight bearing on the wrists. So once we're in that tabletop, just shift the weight forwards and backwards to open up the wrists. And since we will be flipping the feet and tucking and untucking the toes, if you want to add that in here, you can. So when I lean forward, I'll just tuck my toes under and then press my hips back towards my heels. Then I come forward again, untuck the toes, and sit back. So just adding the toes into this and feeling the shifting of the weight forwards and backwards, which again will come in handy later on. Fingers spread nice and wide. Plug mostly into your thumb and forefinger. We'll come through neutral tabletop. And again, we're still opening up the wrists. Dial the right fingers out to the right wall, left fingers out to the left wall, and shift your weight side to side here. Very good. If you want to sit back in your heels, just shake out your hands, wiggle them around. Getting the blood flowing there. And then we're going to warm up our triceps, which is highly used in this pose, this transition. And a lot of times we're used to doing push-ups and activating more of our biceps. So we're going to warm up our triceps and get used to the elbows pointing backwards. So pretend you're opening 2 different pickle jars with your hands. Those elbows spin towards the back wall. If you can't get them headed directly towards the wall behind you, they're going that way. So they're trying to bend more backwards than forwards. So the arms of the elbows are pointing forwards as well. And we're going to just keep little bends in them at first to see our muscles more activated than bone on bone. and see what it feels like to drop the elbows back even more, and almost like you're squeegeeing those hands back towards your knees. Inhale, straighten those arms up. Exhale, we're just going to bend those elbows out to left and right wall. Let those elbows loop back towards the hips and straighten them out. Once more, bend them out to the sides, kind of awkward and weird. Send them towards your hips and straighten out. So the goal of that, again, is to rotate those elbows backwards. From here, we're going to set those hips back to a little bit of a child's pose. The knees could be wide. I'm going to pull myself forward, and I'm going to bend those elbows to the 90-degree angle again, lowering my heart, my shoulders in line with my hips, and I'll press back up and go back to the child's. So you're just feeling the triceps warm up here. Getting used to that sensation of lowering halfway down. And we'll come back to that child's pose. Pulling ourselves back up. We're now going to find those 2 blocks or those books. So I have one block that's going to be underneath my collarbone and one block that's going to be underneath my hip bone, and both blocks will be on the same level. I have the block that's underneath my hips going horizontally and the block underneath my collarbone going vertically, because you don't want it to crash into your chest. You want it a little higher up, right at the top of the collarbones. So finding that nice tabletop, and with our knees dropped here, we want to think of coming down from a high plank. So even if you're not going to hold the high plank, we're going to start there and then drop our knees back down. So you'll find that nice diagonal line from your shoulders to your kneecaps. So we'll all start with the knees down at first, just to warm up this drill. As I exhale, I'll lower the hips onto the first block and my collarbone onto the second block. So this is a great little tool to understand where you are in space and how low you want to lower down. As you inhale, we'll straighten the arms and push back up. Exhale, let those blocks be your little markers. Inhale pushes you back up. If that's easy to do with the knees bent, then feel free to come into that high plank. The knees squeeze together, thighs together, and then you'll lower the chest and the hips as well onto the block, and you'll push back up. So doing that as many times as you'd like. You could always remove the blocks if you feel sturdy enough, or you could keep the blocks with you throughout the entire practice. But you really want to get the sensation of lowering down halfway, either knees up or down, and pushing back up. Just to get that sensation, you want to feel those elbows scraping against your t-shirt. So those biceps are squeezing into the rib cage when you lower down. So the elbows are not flaring out. And then we'll add on from here. So we're going to lower onto our bellies and complete the second half of the chaturanga. So after you lower down, you may come from your knees, chest, chin, or lower halfway. We'll find a Cobra pose. So my toes are uncurled. My palms are into the earth, elbows at 90. Inhale, I pick up my forehead. Gaze stays down at the top of my mat. Squeeze the shoulders together, press into the toes, kneecaps lift. So you could always choose to just do Cobra every time you do your Vinyasa, your chaturanga. Or if you have it in your practice, you can press into the palms, press into the toes, and pick up the hips and the knees as you straighten the arms, finding your full up dog. If you do choose to have up dog in your chaturanga, then please remember to keep the knees up off the floor. A lot of times people sink down into their knees and their hips, and that's how you can just avoid injury. If you keep the knees up, your back protected. So either up dog or Cobra will be your back bend. If you're in Cobra, you'll just press into your hands and your knees to come back to a tabletop. If you're in up dog, feel free to lower the knees and return to your table. Or if you're working on flipping your feet or flipping through the dog, you're just going to come onto the toes, lift the hips, and drop the head heavy to find the down dog. So we'll start adding this all together in a more fluid motion. So remember to choose if you want those blocks with you or not, and if you want to use your knees down or your knees up. So we'll start in the downward facing dog. Relax the head, ears between the biceps. As I inhale, I roll into that high plank, shoulders over the wrists. So decide if you want to keep these knees up or down here. As I exhale, I'll lower halfway, bending the elbows, shoulders align with the hips. Inhale, you can choose the up dog or stay down in the cobra. Exhale, you can find the tabletop to down dog or flip your feet to down dog. So I'll show you this with the modified version with the knees down. Inhale, high plank. Lower the knees. Let the shoulders shift a little beyond the wrists. Exhale, bend the elbows, squeeze them in. Inhale to the cobra. Press back into table. Curl the 10 toes, down dog. And then another way to lower as well. You're going to come to that high plank. Lower just the knees, chest and chin, elbows bend. Slide into your cobra. And exhale, push into the hands and the knees and find the down dog. So it's really helpful if you keep the knees down, you can train the rest of your muscles. Another key tool here is that shift forward with the shoulders. So when you're in that high plank, a lot of people just go straight down into their chaturanga from there. But if you roll on the balls of your feet onto the tippy toes, the shoulders go beyond the wrists, and then you exhale into the low plank. Inhale to high up dog or into that cobra. So there's many ways and variances with the chaturanga, and that's why it's often confusing when you show up to a class and the teacher's just calling out chaturanga, chaturanga, like 10 times in a minute, because there's many different ways you can do it, and feel free to always skip it, and you can go straight to down dog. So whenever you enter a class and they call the chaturanga or vinyasa, you can always take the down dog and just hang out there. Another great pose you could do instead is just holding a high plank if you want to build more of your muscular energy, but don't want to do all that fancy flowing up and down. Or you could always take the child's pose. So many different ways. I'll show you the full expression again if you want to try it. Starting in the down dog. Inhale the high plank. Roll onto those toes. Exhale, bend the elbows to the back wall. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale to flip the feet. Hips high, head heavy. So feel free to practice this. It's not something that's easily done overnight or in a day, but using those blocks can help you. Returning onto your back can help you. So there's many different things that you can do. Keep trying, and remember to keep the core nice and tight and those elbows knitted into the rib cage. I'm going to bring my hands to my heart. Thank you for practicing with me. The light in me honors and recognizes the same light in you. Namaste. Hey everyone, I hope that video was helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys and knowing how I can help you further. Again, thanks for watching.